Hey, this is Dan Fierst again. I'm continuing these education modules on the different excuses that employees will give you if you confront them in the workplace with regard to reasonable suspicion. It's important to understand these 10 excuses because if you don't, you're going to be very vulnerable to guilt and manipulation, or in some way postponing the confrontation of an employee, which will increase risk in the workplace in case an employee is using substances. One of the most common that you're going to see is the excuse where somebody just pops off at you and says, "Hey, you'll ruin my career." At the point in time when you decide you want to get them tested because of reasonable suspicion, but allow an employee to convince you that a drug test is going to be harmful to their career, and that you should back off is another form of enabling. In fact, all of these excuses are really designed to get you to enable. The way alcoholics and drug addicts, people use substances, continue to get sicker and continue to have problems is they have to use other people, places, and things to blame for their drug or alcohol use. And it's just part of the disease process. It's not a characterological or mental illness type of issue. It's the fact that defense mechanisms are critically important in maintaining the disease. And anyone in a relationship with an addict is going to be subjected to defense mechanisms that help buy off the addict's use or problems. So but here's the understanding that you have to understand. It's important to grasp with regard to drug abuse policies. No company is going to have a drug testing policy no company is going to have a drug testing program without having a drug testing policy. And part of that policy must include or should include how a company is going to handle addictive disease and how they're going to handle employees who have drug and alcohol problems. Employees who have addictive disease or alcoholism are considered employees that are ill. Alcoholism is a highly treatable illness, though it's probably one of the most untreated illnesses there is on the planet. So, and most employees are definitely afraid of being found out or going to treatment or being confronted or getting a test because they've built up their mind that there's going to be horrible and severe consequences for having a positive test. The bottom line, however, is that in most companies, zero tolerance policies are not practical. Getting an employee who is a positive for alcohol on the job, recognize that as a symptom of the illness, is much better managed with a treatment referral process than it is just firing the employee, because the chances of having other employees with alcohol problems, especially when the alcoholism rate is about 7 to 8 or 9% of the employee population, statistically, it means that it's better to keep an employee and get them into treatment and have them recover and bounce back, because recovered employees bounce back about 100. They bounce back 105%, because once they're not using anymore, they just become fully available to engage with the employer. And that's typically the way it is, especially with good follow-up with people who are employee assistance professionals or drug and alcohol training experts. Hey, by the way, as I'm talking to you, go ahead and like this video if you don't mind, so other people will see it, and Google will kind of bring it up on page 1 if it's possible. But also click the link below this video so you can see our DOT, Reasonable Suspicion Drug and Alcohol Training Program for Supervisors. You can see the whole program without paying anything for it. It's marked as a preview, so you really can't get a certificate out of it or see the handouts, but we don't mind sending those to you as well. So go ahead and click follow me with and subscribe to this channel. You'll also get more videos, and click that bell. That bell tells you that we'll email you a new video when it gets posted. But what's important to understand about employee drug testing and alcoholism laws is that employees in counseling programs, and most large companies, let's say over 100 employees these days, have some sort of employee assistance or employee counseling program. And it's important if you do testing and someone comes up positive to use those programs to help manage the employee after the positive test, so they're getting the proper treatment, and more importantly, they're followed up. But confidentiality laws protect alcoholic and drug addicted employees who seek professional counseling help. And in fact, most people don't know this, but the confidentiality laws that govern drug and alcohol programs are more strict than any other type of medical confidentiality law that you have in our society. They were written that way in the early 70s when the National Institute of Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism and the National Rehabilitation Act was passed by, otherwise known as the Hughes Bill, was passed in I think 1972 or 1970, something like that. But the bottom line is they were written very strict, and there's very strict fines for violating confidentiality laws with employees who have alcoholism. And so they're, in fact, they're more strict than your medical doctor's office, where a blanket release can give the doctor permission to talk to people. It's not that way with alcoholism and rehabilitation or treatment programs or counseling programs that deal with alcoholics. Alcoholics actually and patients or clients actually have to sign a specific release for a specific person for a specific period of time for a specific purpose. They're very strict. So employees should be aware of that. And that should be mentioned in the policy. I encourage companies to get drug and alcohol policies to actually put in the policy that and state that alcoholism is a disease. The company supports recovery. What the signs and symptoms are, and that the company is concerned about performance, not the morality issues or other kinds of intangibles that are associated with addictive disease. Employees will try to tell you that if you confront them, their career is going to be ruined. It's going to be a disaster. But don't be moved to back off from the drug testing challenge and referring your employee to testing. And that's why I gave you that background information, so you're not confused and frightened and worried about actually ruining somebody's career. There are so many recovering alcoholics that are in top management. The disease, once it's is not a stigmatized illness in the way it used to be decades ago. And quite frankly, it's a biogenic illness that people acquire because of their physical constitution. And all alcoholics start drinking for the same reasons as most people do. And what happens is that they acquire the disease, and they can't prevent it. You can't prevent alcoholism simply by trying to use willpower or other kinds of strategies to contain alcohol use. About the only way you can prevent alcoholism is by abstinence. By the time an alcoholic becomes noticeably alcoholic, or they actually begin to self-diagnose themselves, they've usually been drinking alcoholically for about 15 years, and we're in the adaptive stages, probably at least 10 years before they started thinking about that, which includes higher tolerance, occasional blackouts, and the ability to drink more than most people and still act sober, maybe even drive people home after they've been drinking more than other people. So you're going to hear this excuse, you'll ruin my career. It's a popular one, and it's the second one out of the 10 that I wanted to share with you. Okay, I'll stop sharing now.